And that's the thing that I will always say, when you're stripped back so raw, where everything's taken back and all you seek is happiness in calm. Because like you said, Mum was manic. And we were constantly not only reading a room for him, but her behaviour also, because that would be a red flag. It would be a signal for what's going to build up the eggshells, you know, and no one can explain living on those eggshells. And I always say, you know, when I see anyone with, or if you see an ad campaign for domestic abuse and you see the bruise, or you see, for me, I see that and I see the build-up, the momentum, the what they were going through, and the emotional trauma just around that one bruise, you know, the story that's beyond that one bruise. And it could go on for weeks.
Definitely.
Weeks. You could be waiting for a blow. You know that volcano is going to erupt, and that's it. You back into survival, you know, fight, flight.
That's it. I mean, you think back, it is the control of, like, no matter what we were watching, at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
That news had to go on.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's only got 5 minutes. No.
Yeah.
He's back from work, the news must go on.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's a Sunday. Oh, do you want to play with toys? Well, behind the sofa, because I'm watching the TV, but in silence, because I'm watching my James Bond film. Can I watch a James Bond film now? No.
No.
Have I watched any of the new James Bond films over the last 15 years? No.
What about a sandwich?
Oh my God, the sandwich. I mean, obviously I have had a little bit of therapy over the years at times. Not on domestic abuse, but literally just life therapy.
Well, I think to be fair, the therapy that you ended up in was actually, the domestic abuse was probably a big
cause to why I ended up there. Yeah, but I can remember saying to the therapist, "I made a sandwich today," and he said, "Okay," and I said, "Yeah," and I shouted out at the sandwich, and he was laughing. He was like, "What?" Because he would only have his sandwich cut one way, and if the sandwich was cut the wrong way, obviously he just lost it and would go off on one. So for a time, even though I didn't like my sandwich cut that way, I would still cut my sandwich that way.
Out of fear.
Yeah.
Backlash.
Even though he wasn't in my life.
A simple sandwich.
I was an adult and I was still cutting my sandwich the way he would want his sandwich cut, even though I didn't want my sandwich cut that way. Now, I can remember cutting my sandwich the way I wanted one day and just being like, "I will cut my sandwich however I want to cut my sandwich." In an empty kitchen, nobody there, like, most probably 30 years after the fact. But it was like, I took on that thing of, actually, you haven't got control. You haven't got control over how I have a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm an adult now and I can cut my sandwich however I want to cut my sandwich. But that's how life was. It was his way.
Yeah.
It was his way.
Oh, we all have to sing and dance to that tune, whether that be an eruption or the happy family, as we call it, that the after, after the storm, and all of a sudden you're just having to smile again and just play house in role play.
Come on, children, I'm taking you to the local beer garden. We're going to the pub to have a drink.
Oh, yeah.
What? Why would we do that? We've never done that before.
Yeah.
The last time we did that was, I was the day before our holiday when we were packing and we went out for a drink because we were in holiday mode. Why are we doing that now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then the next time, let's go and have this because we're in happy mode.
But then again, the eggshells would come. The storm clouds would be over our home, you know. It really is. I always said, like, you know, if you go through hot and cold weather, you can catch a cold. And I feel like when you go through that trauma and the calm, then the storm, it can make you poorly. It can make you sick. That fight, flight, on a loop. Constantly.
And is it any wonder when life's going good, I'm still always looking for the bad to come. I'm waiting for the bad to come.
Yeah.
Well, that's been my life for years, so why would I not think that?
And actually, the theatrical above surface level, the mask, this is where it's homed, because all of a sudden you've gone through this traumatic event, but then you're having to place on that mask and everything's okay. Let's please him. Let's make him happy because we don't want that to come back again. But then, sad reality, it was always going to come back again.
Of course it was.
No matter how many times Mum walked around the house cleaning and the ironing and making sure everything was perfect, not upsetting, he would always find an outlet. He would always find a moment to bring it back to us. You know, this is what they do.
We were teenagers, so he would, when he was working, because obviously one day he just quit and just decided that he didn't want to do that line of work anymore.
Even though Mum was working
Even though
three jobs.
3 jobs.
And he was spending the money getting into debt.
Yeah. So it was, he would obviously work, come back, but as teenagers, we were made to, and I know we spoke about this the other day and you didn't remember it, but the 3 of us were made to wash, dry, put away. He did nothing, absolutely nothing in the house, ever. Yeah. Oh, and I think one day he made a dinner. But yeah, so he obviously would wash, dry, put away, wash, dry, put away. He'd come and inspect it. If it wasn't good enough, it'd come out and we'd have to wash it again. But down to like the controller thing of, if it rained in the day, as a teenager, I then wasn't allowed out after school to go see my friends. But then it's that thing of like, friends didn't want to knock on the door. Or they'd knock on the door and run to the safety of the gate, because he would say it as it was his play, wasn't it? Oh, I was only being fair. I was only having fun. I was only having a joke. But the friends would knock on the door and he'd yank open the door, face like thunder. What do you want? But what do you mean they took offence to it? I was only joking. It was that mind game. But yeah, that house is definitely where it all stepped up. Obviously, I was working in the little bakery like we all did, and there'd been a big row, police in the street and everything, and neighbours knew all our business because it was always shouted and you could hear it. I'd gone into the shop on my way to school with my friends. I'd finished first, so I came out the shop, and my friends came out and went, "Oh, there was another big row at your house last night then." And I was like, "What? How do you know?" And they were like, "Oh, they were talking about it. The ladies in the shop were talking about it," because one of them had lived in our street. Apparently, your dad's lost his job now. So she turned around and said, "Well, she won't be in here buying sweets anymore, will she? They've got no money." That's what I heard in the big row last night. So I went to work for my £2 an hour job back then. And all my wages, I never bought anything, like I never saved up for anything, I never did anything other than every morning go into that shop on my way to school and buy something, whether it was a 10p chocolate bar or back then a 60p chocolate bar, but I made sure I went in that shop every day to buy something.
And you were having to prove that this, and that's one thing I've watched you do, as we know, even when you've had children of your own, you've had, basic beans in your cupboard, but the Harvest Festival, you're going and taking Heinz beans, and it's almost like a microcosm. It's taken from there, it's what you've always done. You've always felt the need to prove to everyone, and that's something that I've witnessed in you. Definitely. And that's over the last couple of years I've just tried to get you to just be, you're enough, you don't need to convince anyone, just be happy with what you've got. But this is the trauma that we face, and it is hard for domestic abuse, and that's why I want people to know the wounds that people hear of all the time, but they never actually dig deep, and actually hear the reality.
And that's it. There were so many times, like being out in the garden one summer, having our dinner out in the garden. They were rowing in the house. We got sent out into the garden with the plates. I remember trying.
You can't eat.
I remember trying to eat it, and like that lump in my throat where I'm like,
fight or flight. How are you meant to sit and eat your dinner?
And I remember looking over, and next door but one, they were out in their garden because it was a nice sunny day, and they could see us, and they were shouting, like, "Are you guys okay?" Well, I was like, "Can you not hear the banging and the shouting?" Not
Why
really.
don't someone come and save us?
But even to that point where the day came where where enough was enough, and he tried to run her down in the street, and she said to the police, "Go and speak to the neighbours will tell you." And the police came back and said the neighbours don't want to get involved because you'll just be back with him. So what's the point? They don't want to go into the mess. And that's the hard part, I think. And I don't ever blame them. No. I don't blame the neighbours, because it must have been hard.
What do you do?
What do you do when you know that this has been repeated and repeated and repeated? How do they know it's the last time?
We become the nightmare neighbours on the street, let's be honest. We were the ones that had explosions in the middle of the night. We were the ones that they would wake up to the arguing, the police, the kicking off. They didn't they didn't want that. In that time I took the baton from you, where I stood at the top of the stairs and I had to protect the little one, I went through that rigor mortis setting. I had